felt discriminated in my country. Okay? You've been in the Philippines, so I think we actually have more female marine scientists than male for many other reasons. But maybe in my career, the discrimination early on was that you were from a developing country. So when I went to international conferences early on, before you were established in your field, um, there was always feedback, for example, of, oh, was good, you know? Why? Because people didn't expect that third world or developing country scientists and women can actually do good science, you know? A particular example, we were, doing population genetics. I remember my students went to the conference and the big names were so surprised. We were doing that. The students were talking about population genetics of reef organisms because they expected so much less. That's why they're surprised. So that's part of the bias. Um, so I think the usual traditional pathways still remain. In developing countries, our education system, especially for postgraduate, are not yet that strong. So postgraduate training in the marine sciences in developed countries still play a very important role, even as we develop, our own postgraduate studies here. But aside from formal education, scholarships, which will help a few, and it's very hard, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's in Europe or Australia, in developed countries, but also provide more opportunities for capability building. I mean, more specific skill sets, whether it is related to particular biotechnological methods or even taxonomy. These are still important. Training courses are very important because resources are still constrained. For example, even oceanography, that's a very expensive field. So partnerships with collaboration, and I mean meaningful collaboration, which is mutually beneficial, is going to be very important. I would agree, but I don't know how many scientists in developed countries actually get their feet and hands wet in developing countries to know, what really needs to be done to make a difference and to maintain long term. I think institutional building is long term. So I think long-term institutional partnerships are important, not just project-based. Because once a project is done, it's over. And actual workers in developing countries, I think that's where we can really make a big difference because we are on site.
Yeah.
And a part of the ocean is dependent on, a lot of affects a lot of these developing nations, even climate change, small island nations in the Pacific, even the Philippines is very vulnerable. So disaster risk is real to us. It's not another subject
Yeah.
matter, So things like that. So what I'm saying that, and I don't think it's something personal. It's just that the mindset in developed country is that, well, we do good science, let's just get the science done.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right? We have the resources, we have, and of course, right? But you go to a country and there's such asymmetry, so you cannot go at your pace without leaving your counterparts further behind. So I think
Yeah.
we've made more progress than before. You used to be collectors. Remember the papers we wrote about, and I think that has dissuaded, even the token authorships. But of course, we have to work a lot more, to do that because how many can actually engage in meaningful partnerships? It still happens all the time, and it's not only in the U.S. Whether it's from China now, whether it's from Japan, it's the same thing, So because they get state funding for students, graduate students, right? So they can bring Filipino students, but at the same time, that Filipino student becomes the key to the access, and that's
Yeah.
fine, right? But that it should be more than that. It can be. maybe if there are more developed country scientists who understand the culture and socioeconomic conditions in biodiversity rich countries, then it is going to be easier. See, the perspective of transdisciplinary research or even a perspective, I think will make a difference. If you go there just for sampling, that doesn't happen. So sometimes that more effective, for example, in the Philippines were Peace Corps volunteers, right, who actually immersed, and then they later on got their studies and all of that, and then they know what they're talking about. They know where the local scientists are coming from. They know firsthand the needs. It's not from their perspective, top down. This is basically what we want to do. If you remember, one of the things you're saying, well, we want to be part of the conceptualization, the formulation of the problem,
Yeah.
with a change in culture and values and practice, the next generation may be in a better position. And that's going to be the norm than the exception.